Everything is going extremely well.
And now, Showtime.
Get out of here with this. You need help improving your cost per result? Your cost per result is 1,989% higher than similar businesses. What? Okay, we're going to get into this thing because, let's get to it right here. Create sales. Continue. All right. This right here. Right there. That right. Let's make this as big as we could get it. Where are we going? Right there. This nonsense is what we're getting in today. CBO versus ABO. And a shout out to Ash from Obvi for giving me the idea for this. He hit me up in the DMs. You know, we go way, way back. And it's been incredible to see him moving more and more towards things. So shout out to Ash. Good to see you, Stan. Shout out to all the folks in Disruptor Academy. We just got off an amazing email review. We do a roast my ad account session in Disruptor Academy every single month. And we've also been adding extra ones. Sarah Levenger came in and did roast my ads. And the one and only amazing Phil Rivers did a roast my email today, where he went through, I think, 3 different brands on the spot and audited their email accounts in a way that'll easily just go print some cash, which is incredible. And so with all that being said, good to see y'all here. Stan, you're here. Loved it, buddy. Don, bonjour. Good to see you. And so anyway, all that to be said, let me know where you're at right now in the world, everybody. And if you want, why is perspective funnels across the bottom? We need to get rid of that nonsense. No, let's just do this. Yeah. I don't know why that was there. We're gonna go ahead and fix this thing here. Disruptorschool.com/MBA. Join the Meta MBA waitlist. Boom. There it is. Give me that. By the way, before we get any further, because I'm going to totally get sidetracked on all this ABO versus CBO stuff. Scrolling on the bottom of the screen is the link so you can join the Meta MBA waitlist. We are having our next cohort. It's the first cohort we've done in a long while. And that starts on June 1st. And what I really want you to know about that is that it's bigger and badder and cooler than everything we've done before. It's 12 weeks long. You get nearly 20 hours of time with me. And I mean, it's just the best. I'm super excited. We have nearly like half the spots are filled up already. It is keep the comments coming. Anybody that's watching on YouTube, let me know what you think about this stuff on the ABO versus CBO. Anyway, there's the link. You can join the wait list. It is 100% waitlisted right now, although there is a response. If you're ready to pay in full upfront, you'll save thousands of dollars. So let me know what you guys are thinking. We're already setting up one-on-ones with everybody that's in there. I think I have one today. I had one yesterday. I think I've got 2 on Monday. Like, we're diving in. Like, we don't have to wait to June 1st to like fundamentally change the course of the direction of your ad account and really the future of you in this business. Anyway, ABO and CBO. Let's really get into this today, because unfortunately, this is one of the most wildly misunderstood options inside of the Facebook ad account. And I will personally start off with this with a very big it depends. Okay? John Casto, I hope you're seeing this. That one's for you. It depends. And I hope you guys have been enjoying the interviews that we've had here. A week and a half ago, we had John Casto on, who's an affiliate marketer that basically swears up and down all you need is 1,000 more ads. And we're going to completely debunk all of that stuff here today a little bit. And then 2 days ago, we met with Jacob, and that was a lot of fun. It was really great to see how if you run an ad agency, your objectives not necessarily aligning with the growth and success of the business is growth and success for you as a service provider. and really understanding the differences there in theory and practice. And anyway, that all being said, those were really interesting. Thank you, Jesus. Hey, look, man, here's my thing. Everybody can talk a big game. It's great when you get to see the chef cook. Like with Phil today, I was chatting with him right afterwards, man. He's like, yeah, man, Benihana style. If you can cook and people can watch you do the work, it's undeniable. Like that is a moat that nobody can take away from you. Nobody can take away your ability to get it done. So all of that to be said, let's get into a little bit of this stuff today. All right. Now, what I really want to start talking about here is the ABO versus CBO, because I see this stuff all the time. ABO made my positive cash flow negative. Yeah, that is more often than not the case. But to your point, I would love to know when ABO works, as it is an option. Well, it has to have some, yeah, it absolutely has value. I'm not here to say that it doesn't have value. You know, I often get misquoted. People say all the time, oh, Charlie just says you should never do creative testing, which I don't think I've ever said. And they say, oh, Charlie says you should never use cost caps, which again, never said. In fact, a lot of the cost cap folks use my playbook, and I will often link them to the videos we have on this very channel where their brand new idea they've come up with in the last 3 months is quite literally word for word what I told them 3 years ago. So anyway, like all of that behind us, let's get into CBO versus ABO with beginning at understanding what these two things mean. All right, at a very high level, let's unpack, let's define the vernacular and then break it down. Okay, so number one thing, when you're looking at campaign versus ad set, the campaign budget means that, actually, let's start this the other way. The ad set budget, okay? This is the old school, right? This is the way a lot of us learned how to do because CBO wasn't around for the first few bits. And I remember back in 2018, Facebook said, oh, by February, you're going to have everything in ABO or CBO. And, well, that's just never happened. Okay, anyway. Ad set budget means that you are able to control the distribution of money. Where basically you're saying, this is my ad set. I want to control how much budget my particular ads get. Now, that's a really important nuance because also we have a campaign budget level. And what matters here is the campaign budget says we want to control how much the marketing campaign has. Now, why that really matters is in an ABO, the ad set has the budget. There's one layer of decision making. The ad set has a budget it needs to spend, and it has ads that it chooses to spend on. In a CBO, the campaign has a budget. That campaign chooses which ad sets to spend on. Those ad sets choose which ads to spend on. So at a very high level, what I want you to understand between ABO and CBO is the level of decision making. In an ABO campaign, there is one level of intelligence and complexity. The ad set chooses where to spend. And the campaign level, there are two. In a campaign level, the campaign does not choose what ad to spend money on. And why this is really important is you can think of an ad set budget as basically being a campaign with just ads in it. There's no difference between a CBO with one ad set and a bunch of ads in it as just an ABO. ABO style is a bunch of campaigns in a folder. That's a great way to think about it. And I want you to kind of just wrap that noodle up real quick, okay? So that's the biggest difference. Now, functionally, the use cases, why does that really matter? Well, because let's get down to why you would want to have control. And if we understand that ad set budgets within a campaign is the same thing as having a bunch of campaigns within an ad account, then we can begin to say, okay, well, I only have 3 campaigns and each one has 50 ad sets. Okay, what that means is you have 150 campaigns. Okay, simple, like algebra. You get all of the variables on one side of the equation, okay? Ad sets are campaigns with no ad sets within them. I hope you're understanding that analogy. Now, the reason that becomes really important is because when we get into understanding simplicity, actionability of the data, and how the machine works, plus your level of control inside of the machine and what you should and should not be doing. Now, if we understand that every ad set within an ABO campaign is functionally its own campaign, and at that point, the campaign is just a folder, it performs the same function as multiple CBO campaigns in an ad account. Now we can kind of understand the analogy between them. Then the question is, if you have 3 campaigns with 15 different ad sets in them, why not just have 45 campaigns? I want you to kind of wrap your head around that. Okay, so if we understand that, when you put the budget at the ad set level, what you are doing is deciding, I want this particular group of ads to see this much spend on a daily basis, assuming you're not doing cost caps, which is a whole other thing. And it could be eligible for that much spend if you're doing cost caps. I'm not here to beat up the cost cap homies right now, okay? Like, just trying to bring this together. So if that's the case, why are you choosing, say you have a campaign with 10 ad sets. You are making the choice of which group of ads should see money. Now, really, there's 3 reasons you're going to do that. The 3 most popular that you're going to see is, number 1, well, one ad set has a better ROAS than the other one. Okay. What that means, or better, lead cost, or, app download, whatever it happens to be. So that means you are looking, and this is a conversation we have with Jacob, you are looking at the attribution model. Now, Jacob said he looks at last touch, basically who's the last person to, be involved, and they take credit for everything that happened before then, which in my opinion is insanely disingenuous. And if anybody came to me and said that they were running on a last touch model, I would ask them why they are trying to take credit for the entire work of the team. And if what that really means is that I need to make sure they are as incremental and as separate from everybody, which a lot of people do, which is why they have so many exclusions in place, which is why they have so many issues with finding new customers and raising CPMs and ads that fatigue and all of that nonsense. They're setting up a system built on the idea that based on a retroactive view of attribution, you know exactly what ad is the reason that something happened. Now, I would tell you that the idea that you could possibly know what ad caused an action to happen is absolute nonsense. And even if you could understand, if you could map out somebody's entire life to the actual ad that made them want to do something, that might not even be the last ad that they saw. That might not be the last ad that they clicked on. Like, because Facebook's not even the only platform that they're seeing ads on, right? They could be seeing ads on search. They could be seeing organic content. They could be getting emails. It's really messy. And the honest truth to this is that the solution to that problem is an unknowable one. And more importantly, every single person is different. So if you spent the next year unpacking one customer journey, that is not any indicator of future stuff. So looking at attribution, looking at in this case with Jacob's example, the last touch, and saying, according to this attribution model of 1-day click, 1-day click and view, 7-day click, 7-day click and view, where you're making the unfortunate choice to say that attribution is around credit. Who gets credit for the work of the entire life cycle of that customer journey? Instead of saying, well, attribution is actually how I'm choosing to teach the machine. Remember, attribution is an input into Facebook, not an output for your decision-making. That's a really important distinction that we need to understand. So, number 1 is you are looking retroactively, last week, last day, maybe today, last month, whatever it is, to say, based on that information, this is how other people have behaved. And I'm only going to look at this ad set and how it performed in relation to all the other ad sets and how they performed. And as such, I'm going to adjust my budgets. Now, the three big issues there's number one, obviously, the problem with attribution and the idea that you're able to understand that that ad is the reason something happened is a complete fallacy. Second, the reason that ad worked is because of that entire customer journey. And very often, I'm sure we've all seen the situation of you turn off the bad ad and everything else goes to shit. And it's because some ads sit lower in the funnel, some ads sit higher in the funnel. And a simple 4PI analysis, which is something we've covered on this channel ad nauseum. And if you want to go to the Disruptor Academy YouTube channel, we have multiple videos that unpack all of that inside the Academy and in the MBA. We literally go through ad accounts so you can see exactly how this works for you. But it's really easy to understand. Is an ad filling your funnel? Is an ad closing your funnel? And understand also that the meta marketing funnel is the top of your overall marketing mix. So the idea that you can say that an ad that sits at the top of an overall multi-channel marketing funnel is the reason that anything occurred is ridiculous. Yeah, Harry, I'm reading the chat. I see it. We're going to get there, okay? Now, so if you're looking retroactively at inaccurate data that is also incomplete and lacks context as a way to predict the future, where you're smarter than the machine and you're going to go line item by line item to disrupt the way that ads are being fed to people, that legitimately makes zero fucking sense to me. Like, you'd have to understand future activity. You also have to completely reject the idea that one ad's delivery impacts another one, which means you have a fundamental misunderstanding of how anything works inside of Facebook. You also have to say that you can control the delivery of content to individuals on all platforms, which you functionally are completely incapable of doing, although a lot of people would say that that's wrong, which is crazy because you're not in control of every auction that's happening every microsecond, millions of times a second across billions of people for like the last decade, where the machine is conditioning human behavior. Like, you have no ability to control that situation. So if you are looking at out of context, retroactive data to predict the future, I would say that that is a very poor level of decision making. Now, the other reason that you might do an ABO style is for creative testing. Now, the argument here, and I think Jacob made it, and I definitely remember John making it, is that to do ABO, I think I remember John making it. I'm not going to say definitely. I might have been forgetting that, but or I might have misremembered that. But if you're using ABO for creative testing, we got to have the same problem as optimization. And this is a point I think I brought up with both of those guys. If we're using ABO to do creative testing, let's say we have 10 ads and we give them all $100 and see what gets sales. Well, let's look at what happens when you launch an ad. When you launch an ad, it's run up initially against a testing audience, just like your organic. And so anytime you put content out on any platform, that platform will show that content to the people that it thinks are going to like it the most, to see how that group of individuals reacts to your content, right? That's the market test. If you launch 10 of those, then that's 10 individual line items all being sent to that core audience, which, by the way, is also basically the bottom of your funnel, your most engaged, most active users, which also means that the rest of your ads that run can't touch those people because you're already bidding there. So there's no reason the machine's going to hit the frequency on those people nearly as much as reaching out to other individuals. And you can see this happen in real time is when you smash a retargeting audience, your other ads start to move further up the funnel. And again, I see people, not really believing that or saying that's complete nonsense, but I've legitimately never heard an engineer go back on the entire business model of how all social media works and say, actually, no, because we think that this one advertiser is special and important, we're going to change everything. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So let's keep going down this rabbit hole. Let's pull on this thread a little bit more. We're running 10 ads at a nominal budget to see what works and what doesn't. Again, according to attribution. Again, looking retroactively as like, oh, well, the last 7 days I spent $100. Let's see how this works. So over the last 7 days, at a very small budget, against your best audience, all the ads running, cannibalizing each other in a way that also directly impedes the ads you're currently running, what gets enough sales for me to declare I got a winner? Well, how many sales is enough? What is statistical significance? And this is something I see people argue about all the time, but I think there's a fundamental gap between any answer that I've ever seen people justify this with and reality. What I would expect, if you were to tell me it's statistically significant, is a number in the thousands. Is every ad getting thousands of sales? Well, if that's the answer, then okay, we've got some deal and we've got some reasonable data. 2 is not a data point. 7 sales is a rounding error. I mean, it's not even a rounding error. Like 50 sales, 100 sales is a rounding error. So that style of testing as a way to see what ads work and doesn't work is really saying, when I launch, say, like, when I put 10 kids to sell candy door to door in a neighborhood and everybody gets to knock on 10 doors, who sells the most candy? It has nothing to do whether or not any of those kids are any good at selling candy. It is random distribution. That is not predictive in any way. Sure, some people are going to be worse than others. There are going to be just some ads that suck. There are going to be some that are good. But your ability to understand that distribution, the contrast that you're going to find in those data points is fully negligible, because you're looking at 3 sales, 10 sales. Maybe you're sitting here and be like, no, man, I'm getting like 25 leads. Okay, great. Give me 20 times that. And we can begin to have a conversation around what might be statistically significant when you double that number. Statistical significance isn't from a handful of options. The reason it's statistically significant is because the data set is so large, it becomes predictive. 5 is not a data set. 20 is barely a data set at all. So what's the third? So if we understand that, then the value of the presented value of ABO as a creative testing model is basically predicated on, how do I test as many ideas as possible where the information that I get, the data I get from that test, lacks context, is not predictive, is statistically insignificant, and damages my business as usual, which in a way also creates ad fatigue and raises CPMs, because if any of those ads give people a negative experience, that's hurting the estimated action rate of you as an advertiser, that's hurting your advertiser score, and you are losing more and more quality impressions, more and more quality inventory. So you're doing a lot of damage to get really shit data in a very expensive way that makes your existing operations less successful, so that you can use really low quality information to make a predictive decision on future behavior. When you say it out loud as a sentence, it's indefensible as far as I'm concerned. And I'd love to hear anybody say otherwise, because I've never seen somebody actually come with the idea that that's with the concept that that's a good idea. And the last thing that I'm going to do here before we move on this, and Harry, I see your questions here. We'll get to how do you recommend testing stuff, because we will absolutely get into that. My biggest problem with using ABO to do creative testing is that you completely reject the concept of the scientific method. Your existing ads that sit outside of that environment are not a control that is being compared against, because the environment is different. And that's really important. You could say, well, they're running against broad, or they're running against this interest group or lookalike audience. Okay. But the supply and demand economy is wildly different. If you have a campaign spending $2,000 a day against like 20 ads, let's say, because you're one of these ABO tons of ad people, and you just have a statistically insignificant, like you've set up an architecture that it does not allow you to do things well. You probably have a campaign, let's say $2,000 a day, you're running 30 ads in there. When you run an ABO style test, remember the structure. That ad set is running that budget in isolation from any other input against the highest quality audience because it's a very small budget on early data sets. So every ad set within a campaign that is set at an ABO is cannibalistic. They're not sharing any data. There's no decisions between any of those things working with each other. Just like when you run multiple campaigns inside of an ad account or multiple ad accounts inside of your business, or realistically, all the thousands of other advertisers competing against you. Every ad is competing in that environment, except for the ads within that one ad set budget. The only continuity you have is whatever ads are in that ad set budget level ad set. That's the only thing you can compare. You could say of those ads within that ad set, what earned more spend? That's really the only thing that you can test. Because the scientific method requires a control and then a variable. And that variable needs to be either tested in the exact same environment as the control with all other variables being equal. In this case, you would have to test at the same budget as your scaling campaign, because you're still running, unfortunately, a testing and a scaling campaign. So if your scaling campaign's at $2,000, your creative test at the ad set level needs to be $2,000 per ad set. Otherwise, you've destroyed the data integrity of your test. If that's not the case, then those are incompatible data sets. And I would highly suggest that you don't do that. Don't run all of your tests that way, just with massive budgets everywhere. Because also, you can't control for other variables they have to deal with, which is the fact that the learnings that happen at Facebook don't happen at the ad set of the campaign. They happen everywhere. And so this is something when we get to CBO, we have to understand that the campaign in an ABO, the ad set learns which ad to show. That's where you can understand some ads get more spend than others. The ad set is getting better at understanding that distribution. However, none of the ad sets share information. So they're all individual efforts. Just like all of the ads that are in that are all individual efforts, which is one reason why we also use flex ads or dynamic creative, because that's actually one ad that's sharing all of the data, right? Which is often why you see ABO folks push for a bunch of individual ads. Like they have no scientific quality to their testing methodology, and they're just compounding that problem over and over and over again. And then making complaints around the inability to acquire new customers and rising CPMs and rising CPAs. And like they're playing the victim card because they've destroyed their own opportunity. It's like anybody who voted for Trump that owns a small business that's upset about tariffs. Like you got what you asked for. Be happy about it. Be fucking stoked that you won. If you get what you asked for, don't be upset that you get it. Like, don't win the game and then complain that you played. Like, that's dumb. So the point here, the idea of using ABO for creative testing is complete nonsense. Because again, you're not going to be able to hit statistical significance. You are unable to leverage the scientific method, and you're highly disruptive to business as usual. And my point to that is, like, if you're going to use ABO, just don't use ad sets at all. Just have a single campaign with a single ad set, and whatever you're going to do, just have 1,000 campaigns in your ad account. There's legitimately no difference. For that point, you could just have every creative test is in its own ad account. It's the exact same thing. The only real shared information is the pixel. And remember, the pixel doesn't learn anything. It's the data throughput. The ad set learns which ad to show more often than the other. That's the learnings, right? So the ad learns who likes that ad and who doesn't, based on that initial test audience. So the ad has that learnings. Based on that data, the ad set gets to choose which ad to show to people. And that's where the learnings happen at the ad set level. In an ABO campaign, that's as smart as you ever get. That's it. And every single effort you have is completely isolated and cannibalistic. In a CBO campaign, the campaign understands which ad set. The same way in an ABO, the ad set learns which ad to spend on. In a CBO, the ad set still learns which ad to spend on, but the campaign is choosing which ad set to spend on. So you're allowed now to access the concept of the scientific method. And we'll get to that here in a minute. But let's look at the third reason that people use ABO. And for this, for what it's worth, this is a methodology that I'm actually okay with, which is we want to constrain the delivery for a business reason. Now, this is something where I'm absolutely for ABO usage. And primarily where I use this, and to be fair, you can also do this in a CBO campaign 100%. And I'll show you how to do that too. And I'll actually just show you my screen in my ad account of how I'm doing that here in a little bit. Because some people are like, oh, well, Charlie doesn't spend his own money on his own ad. We're looking quite legitimately in my ad account. Just the people that don't pay attention and just love sound bites just sound dumber and dumber and dumber constantly. Just like they're fighting so hard to continue to lose instead of just choosing to win instead of be happy, which honestly is ironic because winning would make them a lot happier. Okay, all that to be said. If you want to control the delivery, I'm totally fine with that. And one of my best pieces that I still use to this day when I decide to run an ABO is when I have retargeting in my strategy. Now, I know you're like, Charlie, but you say never to do retargeting. It's totally stupid, X, Y, and Z. Sure, but not always. This is the it depends. If you have a catalog campaign targeting add to carts or view content or something like that nature, a funnel-based retargeting audience, which there might very well be a reason for. And please, for the love of God, don't do that to run discounts. I just had to tell a brand right now that's struggling. They really want to get to 50 million this year. And they grew 50% last year. We came on in September, and they basically beat out everybody's Q4 before Black Friday hit because we didn't wait until Black Friday to do things the right way. They want to run a 70% off as a discount as a retargeting offer. And I said, this is literally my speech to them. My counterpoint to that is I don't ever want to show someone in the funnel a discount. If you want to buy from us, the worst thing we could do is let you pay less to be far less likely to buy again. Upsell, don't discount if making money is the goal. That's my Slack message from 11:32 this morning. So if there's a reason that I want to specifically blanket some sort of retargeting audience for any business reason, optimally, it's not about the ad spend. It's not about spend level. It's about the daily frequency. And this is something like just for some reason, nobody else is ever talking about. But if you're running a retargeting ad for any reason, the optimal performance you're going to get from that is based on daily frequency, not spend level, not performance. You can't ramp up spend. Eventually your frequency is going to get so high that you're just doing more harm than good. You're going to find, generally speaking, that a mid-level retargeting audience, let's say view contents from the last 7 days, that is probably going to have an optimal daily frequency between like a 1.5 and a 2. And your job is to ramp up the budget there as much as you can. But you'll find that once you get to a 2 or a 2.5 or a 3, like performance just tanks. Like you're spending more money and you're not making any more because of it. And you're raising your CPMs along the way, which is also raising your CPMs across the rest of your ad account because you're reducing your quality of your relationship with your business partner because you've chosen to put yourself first and just respect your business partner, which again is a crazy idea if long-term success has anything to do with like your plans. In that instance, you might also find that an add to cart, like 1 day audience, like super bottom of the funnel, might be a 2.5. You also are going to find it a point where you're not ever going to be able to spend more. Like you might have $100 daily budget and only ever spends 35. Like, okay, you can't just keep ramping up the budget if there's no more people. So the point is, that's an ABO scenario where I'm totally fine using an ABO situation because when you're using ABO, in that environment, you are not using machine learning. You're not trying to leverage advanced matching nearly as much as you are leveraging inventory marketing. You're effectively treating Facebook and Instagram like it's Google Display. You are showing up in people's feeds often enough per time of day, which is why frequency is the way that you go. When you're using Google Display or when you're using banner advertising and buying the spots on top of CNN.com or MTV or whatever it happens to be, you're doing that and you're buying on CPM. You're buying on reach and frequency. How many impressions can I get? And I want to have a frequency of X amount over any given time. That's how you buy that type of media. I know because I've spent millions and millions of dollars buying that type of media for brands for many, many, many years. That's what you're actually doing with a ABO in a retargeting sense. Now, yes, the ad set is going to learn which ad to show to people. There's still the ad level learning because every ad is making its own audience. You're just constraining where that learning is able to be applied. And so in that way, I'm totally fine doing ABO, but we are understanding once we've gone to ABO, we're optimizing towards a frequency. We're no longer focused on using the Meta Ads platform as a scientific method tool to create intent, leveraging advanced matching and trillions of data points. We're saying we have this set inventory. It's email. It's Google Display. It's the exact same thing. You are just blasting people trying to buy attention for cheaper than that attention is worth. Okay. Now, when we get to CBO, when we get to the bright world of everything you should have been doing since 2018, which is crazy to me. Like, it's been nearly a decade and we're still debating over like whether or not you should be leveraging the scientific method. Like that's insane. Like just take a moment to realize how long it has been. 2018 is when CBO came on board. It has been since 2018 that people have debated whether or not leveraging the way global scientific consensus is achieved, whether or not that matters when it comes to advertising, with the majority of most brands' budget and a thing that basically defines whether or not dreams are made or jobs are lost. That's insane. Like, that is negligently insane as far as I'm concerned. And there's a reason why so many of the diehards eventually come around. So many of the ABO cost cap bros eventually get to the point where I'm going to try something new. I'm just going to go CBO and I'm going to go maybe broad. And oh, by the way, we have a bunch of new wins. Check out my new strategy. It's literally what I was telling them in DMs like 3 years prior, 2 years prior, 4 years prior. That happens all the time with a lot of the advertisers that many of you follow on Twitter and YouTube and everywhere else. Okay, that'll being said, how does CBO work? A campaign budget optimized environment. This one says, okay, like how the ad set can learn from the performance of the ads and how to deliver the most consistent user experience for somebody on the platform. Because remember, that's the goal. The platform is not trying to make you more money. The platform is trying to give their end users the positive experience. And your goal is to figure out how to do that in a way that also makes you money. I don't know why my account average is $4.91. That's weird. It's probably because of all the Instagram promotion stuff for the broad retargeting. Anyway, that's probably what it is. There's a whole bunch of $1 shit in there. Okay. So in a CBO environment, just like how in an ABO, the ads are teaching, the ads learn and the ad set learns how to distribute those ads. That's what the learning is. In a CBO environment, the campaign is learning which ad set, how the ad sets deliver. So basically in a CBO, the ad sets perform the same function as ads do within an ABO. Remember, in an ABO, the ad set is the campaign, right? And in a CBO, the ad sets are basically the ads. And then they get to learn. So in a CBO environment, The ads get delivered. The ads learn who likes that ad, who doesn't, and they all build up lookalike audiences to inform future delivery. The ad set learns how to distribute those ads to deliver the most consistent result for the end user on the platform. And then the campaign learns which ad sets to distribute the money to decide how to deliver the most consistent result. You can think of like a sales manager. The campaign is the sales manager. The ad sets are the salespeople. The ads are the sales pitch. And in ABO, it's just independent salespeople just doing stuff on their own, completely ignoring everybody else. Jennifer, it is on my short list. Don't you worry. These videos, by the way, completely power all the content. So I'm glad that you really enjoy it. And thank you, Bronson. Let's go. Okay. By the way, Jennifer, I think I got your application. I don't know. Anyway, good to see you here. Okay. So if we understand that the ads build a lookalike audience of who engages with it. And by the way, if you want to dispute that, I mean, there's zero evidence that that's not the case. Literally 100% of the empirical data is on that side of the equation. So you're on the like side of like the flat earther or that like Republicans are good for the economy. Like zero evidence supports your opinion. Then we're looking at a situation of, okay, so the ads learn who to show the ads learn who likes that ad. The ad set learns how to distribute the ads to give the best quality user experience of the choices it has. And then the campaign learns which ad sets to deliver to. Now we get to some really interesting use cases, because let's break down why you would use ABO. Remember, the first one was distribution of budget based on like retroactive out of context data. If instead of having 20 campaigns in your ad account, you had 20 ad sets inside of a CBO, the campaign is deciding where to send that money. And the more ad sets you have, the lower quality of that data, the harder it is to get to any sort of empirical evidence. Just like when you have 20 ads within an ad set, you basically know which 3 get the most spend and everything else is spending like 78 cents. And you have no idea whether or not it's good or bad, because basically whatever got lucky early is the only thing spending any budget. So at the campaign level, you're not predicting the future based on out of context retroactive data. You're managing how well is this campaign delivering the objective. And then you're optimizing the choices that campaign can make. Now that is a functionally dramatically different environment, which is basically you optimizing the ads within an ad set. But now you can weaponize another level of intelligence and sophistication, which is basically to say, you can actually use the world's most powerful in artificial intelligence and human behavior conditioning device as anything other than random distribution elements where you're competing with yourself. You can actually use the technology in the way that it was designed to be used. It's like, sure, you could have a pickup truck and just treat it like a shelf, or you could actually drive it places, right? Like that's a bad analogy, but the point is like, you have options now, okay? You have a much smarter machine. So instead of just constantly shifting budgets from a whole bunch of places, they're all conflicting with each other, which is basically like determining within an ad set what ad gets a bunch of spend, which makes no sense. And you would never do that. In a CBO, you can say, this is how much money I want to spend on this business objective. And if you listen to anything I say, every campaign needs to have a clean and discrete business objective, and it better be the best campaign you have delivering that business objective, or it's a liability, right? That's why we don't have like 12 campaigns in an ad account unless you're spending like 60, 70, 80, $100,000 and you're struggling. Like, there are reasons for that, but it's not you, okay? So the campaign is learning which ad sets to spend on. And instead of you making a bunch of retroactive decisions based on attribution, what you're doing is saying, how can I let the machine make better choices? Because you're not choosing where the distribution happens. You're saying, I'm letting the quality of the choices within that distribution, I'm going to improve the quality of it. So it's basically, it's saying, if I give you every tool in the toolbox and expect you to do a good job, that's one thing. But if I just start removing all the tools that aren't best fit for you, eventually you're only going to be left with a toolkit that's exactly what you need. Like, it's going to get smarter and better and more informed and more powerful over time because there's so much less waste. So in the idea of controlling budgets, if you have one campaign per business objective, you have a very easy task of, can I do this job better? And in that way, what you can't do in an ABO is say, this ad got more spend. What happened to the output of my campaign? Well, now you're able to start doing that, because it's the same way in an ad set of one ad started getting more budget. What happened to that ad set? Now you can do it at the campaign level. And instead of having 10 ad sets in a campaign, all spending $100 so that campaign is spending $1,000, which is basically like some ad account spending $1,000 across 10 campaigns that are spending $100 a pop. Like, or 10 ad accounts all spending $100 so that your business is spending $1,000. Again, it's the same thing. If you're using ABO, every ad set is effectively its own ad account. Like, it's just so dumb. It just doesn't make sense. And it's dumb for me because, like, I've been around the block a bunch. I understand all of this stuff. And the reason I'm telling it to you is because there's a lot of other people who claim to be experts where this is still something where they are going to look at this and laugh at me like I'm a crazy person. And I get it. They've been taught by other people to value bad information and look at things the wrong way because their definition of success is very different than yours might be. Like the conversation we had on Wednesday, where the definition of success is, how many pieces can I take credit for with this budget? Jacob runs his ad agency on Last Touch. The way Jacob should be running that agency is, how can I make sure that I'm the last thing for everybody that is already in the marketing funnel of this business and I'll never get fired? Is he adding anything to the business? No. I mean, maybe, but like, is that helping the business? Not at any scale, because he's basically optimizing towards, how do I have the least amount of incremental impact, which is a dramatic issue. And if you're running a business in that way, one of the reasons you're struggling to grow is because you're optimizing for the least valuable KPI. Last touch attribution, which is just terrible. Last touch attribution at the marketing funnel, at the channel that's at the top of a marketing funnel at the beginning of a customer journey, has the least level of impact on the overall growth of the business. It legitimately makes no sense if you say it in a sentence. And that part for me is just like, if you can't say it in a sentence with a straight face, it's probably a bad idea. Okay. So then number 2, which is the creative testing. Getting back to, your spot here, Harry. I see you, okay? Now, what if you want to do creative testing? Well, in an ABO, the only real testing environment you have is within that ad set. And your control is basically been running ads and then you launch new ads. How does that ad set change in the way that it distributes ads? Okay, that's an actual statistically accurate test. Now, you're going to have to get to a couple thousand sales for that to have any real merit, but still, you can get some directional data in there. It's working. In a CBO, however, things are dramatically different, because the way the ads in an ad set in an ABO function is the way the ad sets function in a CBO campaign. So you can have an ad set that is your control environment in your equation, in your scientific test. And then what's the scientific method? You have a control with a knowable outcome, and then you introduce a variable. And either that variable outperforms the control because you're running them both in isolation in the exact same environment, which is something we cannot do inside of Meta. It is 100% impossible for you to do that unless you're launching a brand new ads in a brand new ad set in a brand new campaign where you've bifurcated the entire universe, and none of those ads look or feel or use any of the same words as any ads you previously run. Otherwise, that style of holdout testing with a true A/B split test is impossible. So we're left with the other style of scientific method, which is we introduce a variable. What happens to the overall mix? Okay, what is the impact of the change? And in a CBO, that's actually really easy to see, which is another conversation. If you're looking at attribution, you've already lost the game, right? Because it's not the performance of any one ad. It's when you have a control campaign, or in this case, a control environment of an ad set of ads that perform in the way that you know how they're going to perform, and you launch a new ad set inside of that CBO with its own set of ads, which is again why we only launch when you have a proper creative testing strategy. We have 1 322 ad per ad set. So that way that control has one variable. It's not the ad set choosing between those different 322 ads, which one to possibly show out of all the possible combinations. It's one choice. If you have a control environment and then 1 or 2 of these creative tests, I love the idea of running 2 versions of the same idea, because then you get into multivariate testing, which is really important. But the bottom line is, does that variable, in this case, does that additional ad set in your campaign, this second or third ad set inside of your campaign, does it earn spend? And if the answer is no, then it has no impact on the net. Okay, black and white, 0 impact. In that case, it's basically a loser. The answer is yes. Okay, it has an impact. What is that impact? Does the campaign performance improve or get worse? And more importantly, when that campaign performance gets better or worse, according to whatever vanity metrics you're looking at, what happens to the bank account of the business? And that ultimately brings me to the biggest difference between CBO and ABO. Is that in ABO, it is essentially impossible for you to understand at the ad level, I launched an ad, what happened to my bank account? That is effectively impossible. And so many folks, and we've had 2 conversations in the last 2 weeks where I've talked to people, they said you can't possibly know, which says what they're saying is it is impossible for you to know the value of any ad that you run. My question is, then why are you running my ads? If you can't tell me this is the impact on the business, and the only way you can do that is by looking at the attribution of any one particular ad or another one, you're not saying you gave me this much money and as a result, your bank account did. You gave me X money and your bank account changed by Y. If you can't say that, then why am I giving you my money to spend? You would never do that anywhere else in the world. You would never go to like an investment banker and say, here's a bunch of money. How much did I get back? And they say, well, according, to the numbers here, I take the credit for this much money in your bank account. And you say, well, yeah, but I also, have income and tax, whatever is going on. It's like, okay, well, I'm not responsible for any of that. You gave me money and your bank account looks like X. Okay, but how much did I get from you? Oh, I don't know. That's insane. But that's every ABO and constant creative testing. And to be fair, a lot of the cost cap folks, that's their style of testing. So I hope what you're getting out of this is ABO is great for control. You should only use it when there's a value to that control. The value to that control, one of the only use cases where that is still relevant is when you're trying to manage to frequency, because you're not using the audience that those ads are being shown to as anything other than inventory marketing. It is no longer optimized CPM environment. You are not running the campaign based on the algorithm. You are running the campaign of show my ads to as many people as possible and to an X number of people at a certain optimal frequency. Outside of that, the argument for ABO is moot. There is no value. And hold on a second. Boom. Okay. So that's really how we go about this. And Harry's asking, well, how do you test a whole bunch of ideas in a short time? You don't. You should never be testing product at scale with your Facebook ads. That's not the purpose of the ads. The purpose of running ads is to say, I know how I make money. I'm going to do more of it. If you don't know how you make money, then you absolutely shouldn't be running ads. That's one of the most expensive ways to do market research. And I highly recommend that whoever's telling you to do that is somebody that you don't listen to again. Because yes, there's going to be out of context screenshots where everything looks good. But it's 2025, man. You got to be You got to answer that question. So the way I would recommend testing a lot of things in a short time, see what your business does, amplify the things that work. Spend your money on ads on the things that you know what's going to happen, because spending money on ads should not be a test, right? And you could run catalog ads to the machine on the inventory marketing and see what works, or even abroad, and begin to look at the distribution of those ads, of that spend by product ID, and then the conversion rate of the landing pages that your ads, that of all the traffic you get. Because if you have, say, 20 different SKUs or 2,000 different SKUs, and you look at the delivery by product ID, you're going to see dramatic differences. And then you say, well, that's how much traffic, or that's how much spend I got per thing. And then you can go to your store and say, well, how much traffic did each one of these highest spending items get? And then based on that traffic, which one has the best conversion rate, you're going to understand kind of what works. And then you can go to that and say, okay, out of all of these different products that got a lot of spend and had an above average conversion rate, which ones led to purchases where somebody bought more than once? Now you got a hero product. Like, that part is, again, I think I can say that in 30 seconds, and is functionally light years ahead of what any ABO marketer would approach, because their solution and the self-serving nature of it basically eliminates your possibility of you having any quality data. Now, I did promise before we're done here, because my nanny is back, and so is my little baby girl. So we're gonna get out of here, but I want to show you where I am actually doing this. Now, the way you can do this, if you want to do an ABO style test where you're controlling for frequency, but you want to do it in a CBO. No, Harry, don't do ABO. Don't test 5 ad sets. No. I really, really encourage you to not set money on fire. If you're testing, don't do ABO. ABO is not a testing environment. ABO removes the ability to have a test. That's what you need to understand more than anything. So thank you for asking the questions to get me to that simple point. Now, if we look at this, let me go to a 4PI plus 2 here. If we look at these, let me zoom out just a little bit more. This is the last 14 days, 2,000 of my own dollars spent in this business, all right? And out of that, it looks like I made about $3,000. Plus, you know, that's in 1,200 in profit, plus maybe about 40,000 in high ticket sales. Okay, so doing well. Okay, now we can see, actually, let me go back 30 days here. Okay, this BR Flex Stack, which is my broad retargeting, you can see here that when it spent a little amount of money, it didn't get a lot of budget, but in general, $52 versus 67. So it's a better audience because it's the broad retargeting audience, right? So what I started to do was throw in some spend minimums to push up the budget and optimize towards this frequency. And the funny thing is, as I ramped up the budget, look at this, the frequency didn't climb as much. The frequency at $6.50 and 670 was 1.5, 1.8. The frequency at 83 is a 1.5. Like, ramping up the spend doesn't mean that your frequency goes up, because also your CPM is going to be different, and just the distribution will change. But if you notice, what happened is I started to get a lot more sales. Now, if we do this as a breakdown by week here, instead of by day, we're going to go by week, time, week. Okay. Let me get rid of this nonsense. It's on my screen. I have a pop-up. Okay. Yeah. Open CBO, 100%. Harry. Yes. Okay. So over here, what we can notice is this has been ramping up. 69, nice. 176, 463. Look what's happening here. My cost got better and basically not nominalized, right? 52, 67. My proving ground, my prospecting is getting more expensive because it's filling the funnel. That's just what it should be doing. But also my overall volume of sales continues to go up, and my blended result continues to come down. It's just multiple ads in a single campaign and a single ad set. That's all tripping. One ad set with your proven ads, and then 1 or 2 ad sets that are flex ads, 322, to test against whatever is the weakness identified by a 4PI analysis. I got like 60 seconds left. I can't unpack all of that stuff, my man, but like just binge the channel. Join Disruptor Academy, by the way, and you'll be able to understand this a lot more. Anyway, with all that being said, let me just show you the overall net output of what this looks like in the business. 740, 1,000. We're actually going to start spending a lot more than this, but at 740, the cost per was at 37, which is awesome. There's also a lot of other things going on there because remember, this is an out of context number. We did a big promotion. There's a lot of stuff in there, but look at this. This number is more or less stable. And what I really enjoy is if we go back to maximum, okay? The actual cost per purchase and the cost per school purchase, right? This thing went up to nearly 200, and then it just started to come down, more or less leveling off, okay? It's leveling off as I more or less doubled the budget. And if you look at the CPMs here, I went from 40, 50 down to like 20. Like, that's what happens. And what's great is, like, look at these purchases, 3, 4, 5, 8, 17, 16. I'm making more money. I'm getting more effective, and I'm scaling efficiency and volume. Because this is a CBO campaign. And all I've really done here, in order to control my frequency, to basically say my optimal level is somewhere between 2.5 and 3 on a week-by-week basis, based on my spend. I can kind of understand that. I've just gone here into the edit button, and instead of running this as an ABO, I've just set my ad spend minimum at $100 to make sure that I'm blanketing my audience at a certain level that is optimal for business. And I have to update this name because I just changed this today. Boom, publish. Now I basically have a dynamic version of an ABO because this can spend up to $100. It has to spend at least $100 a day. And I just changed that. So if we look back, it'd be 80. But sometimes it spends more. If the opportunity is there, go get it. Because while this is more costly to get somebody in, it's also more effective. Right? Like, if all things are equal, we can compare these two things against each other. Now all of this makes sense. I have a control and I have a variable. When I ramp up my variable, my performance gets better. As I do more and more of this, my variable also improves. Look at this. 39, 44, 47, 49, 36, 31. Oh, shit. We're getting better. So the point is, everything you're trying to do in an ABO is something that you should be doing in a CBO, unless you're trying to control very specifically for daily frequency. And you can even do that in a CBO. So ultimately, why are you using an ABO? Because you have a lot of improvement your way. And if you're winning running an ABO, imagine how much better you could get if you stopped making mistakes and you started leveraging the machine. And that's really what it's all about. All right, everybody, I got to go. If you have questions for me, please just join Disruptor Academy or try to hit the comment section of this stuff. I just don't have the time to hit everything here. I'd love to chat with you guys, but we do this to enjoy life. My little baby girl's inside the house and I got to go. I'm doing actually a live today where we are breaking down ad accounts, doing a full audit inside of the limited supply community. So join limited supplies Slack group if you want more stuff. And okay, Harry, last question. So open CBO. I have a lot of products to test. How would you recommend my strategy? Don't use ads to test products. Done. That's not how you solve the problem. You're functionally trying to solve the wrong problem with the wrong tool. You don't measure something's weight by seeing how quickly you can cook like a steak. Like there's just you can't do that, right? Like it's like you're asking me how much of the dreams of a butterfly weigh. What is the square root of the color purple? Like that it's an invalid question. Just don't do it is my best answer. And Harry, yeah, I answered how to do it a little bit earlier on. So check the replay. I'll see you guys later. Everybody, love you. Bye. Gotta go. I'm